Hello, my name is Amy Griffin, and in the last few weeks I've gotten a lot of questions about bindings and how to finish, how to join the last two ends. So I thought today would be a great opportunity to show you how to join the ends to get ready for the hand part of the binding. Let's take it over to the sewing machine. When I started adding or sewing my binding on, I left about a 4.5 to a 6.5 inch. You decide what works best for you, but at least a 4.5 inch. I've started stitching halfway in the quilt, so I'm not starting in a corner. I'm starting somewhere in the center, preferably at the bottom of the quilt. Once I've come around and done all my corners, you're going to be left with a very long piece. Now for this to work, you need to take the quilt and lay it on your lap and do it so that the quilt, the bulk of the quilt, is on your lap. And we are going to take the left side of the binding and overlap it on top of where we started. Remember, that was the 4.5 inch tail. I'm going to call that my tail. I'm going to take my left side and bring it over and overlap it. When I started with my binding, I cut my binding strips at 2 inches. So if I overlap it 2 inches, I should be fine. Now, because I know my machine and I know that it will leave a little gap, I take an 1/8 inch off. So if you're starting with the 2.5 inch binding, take an 1/8 off the 2.5 inches, which would be 2.5 minus an 1/8 would be 2 and you would overlap it 2 3/8 instead of the 2.5. Again, I started with the 2 inch binding, so I'm going to overlap 1 7/8 and cut that piece, that top piece off. So here's my bottom binding, here's my top binding. I'm going to overlap it. I'm going to set my ruler so that it's at 1 7/8. And then I find it easiest to pin it. I'm going to take my pin and I'm just going to pin it with a 1 7/8. This is kind of hard to do while videotaping it. So I'm going to lay it down and see if I can get that accurate 1 7/8 and then pin just the top, just the left side binding. Once I have marked it, then I can go ahead and take my scissors and just cut a straight edge. Once you have a straight edge, and again I've overlapped 1 7/8, I'm going to open the left side, lay it horizontal, take my right side, lay it vertical. And this is why you need a little bit of a distance between the two, because it does get cumbersome. I am going to pin that in place. And then I'm going to draw a line from corner to corner, just like you do when you join your strips. Just corner to corner, and I'm using my hero marker to go from corner to corner. Now I'm going to be stitching right on top of that line. take my pins out, and before I cut my waist, I'm going to check to make sure that the binding is going to lay nice and straight. And it sure is going to lay nice and straight, so I can go ahead and cut. If you had a little bulk, then my suggestion would be to take your strips, overlap them again, and cut another 1/8 of an inch. Sometimes your feed dogs and your presser foot will not work together, and it slides a little bit more than it should. And that's the reason why you should test it. Take the 1/8 off first. Start with 8-inch increments and see what works for you. And then make yourself a little note so that you don't forget the next time that you do your binding. I'm going to just finger press that open and take it back to the sewing machine and just stitch all the way down. This is just a sampling of our videos, and if you found it helpful, consider becoming a member. We've got lots of different videos from paper piecing to applique and bindings. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.